When God is getting ready to bless a woman with something big, it doesn't start with comfort. It starts with a shift, a vibration in her soul, a restlessness she can't name. It's like life starts moving pieces around her, removing people, breaking illusions, shaking foundations she once trusted. And she might look up and wonder, why me? Why now? But deep down, her spirit knows this isn't destruction, this is preparation. You see, before a blessing arrives, God tests the strength of the vessel. He lets her walk through storms that were never meant to break her, only to prove to her what she's made of. He lets her stand alone so she can finally hear her own voice. He lets her lose things that were too small for the woman she's becoming. And even when her heart is tired, something inside her refuses to quit because her destiny is calling her louder than her doubts. And that's when the signs start showing up. Signs that she's not being punished, she's being positioned. Signs that the pain wasn't pointless, it was shaping her. Signs that the tears she cried weren't wasted, they were watering the ground for her next level. A woman who is about to be blessed can feel the shift before she sees the blessing. It's like the universe leans in and whispers, get ready, something greater is coming. Because God doesn't just hand a woman a blessing, He builds her into the kind of woman who can carry it. And if she's paying attention, she'll recognize every sign He places in front of her. And trust me, when those signs appear, it means her breakthrough is already on the way. When a blessing is coming toward a woman, it never enters her life quietly or gently. It arrives with a kind of spiritual electricity, a stirring in the deepest part of her being, a movement that she can feel long before she can understand. Everything inside her begins to shift, almost as if her soul is preparing room for something bigger than she has ever carried before. This is why the first sign of a major blessing is not peace, but disruption. It's not stillness, but a sudden awareness that something important is on its way. She might not be able to explain it, but she can sense it the same way a storm can be felt in the air before a single cloud appears. There is a vibration, subtle yet undeniable, that pulls her attention inward and upward. In those moments, she begins to realize that her spirit is waking up to something her mind hasn't caught up to yet. The blessing announces itself by shaking the foundation she has been standing on, not to break her, but to make sure she is not anchored to anything that cannot go with her. A woman who is about to be blessed often finds herself questioning her routine, her relationships, her priorities, and even her own desires. It's not because she is lost, it's because she is being prepared for alignment. Before something big arrives, God makes space for it. And space is only created when the unnecessary begins to fall away, whether that be people who drain her, habits that limit her, or environments that keep her small. This inner shaking is not chaos, it is calibration. God is tuning her spirit to the frequency of the blessing that's approaching. She becomes more sensitive, more reflective, more aware. She starts paying attention to what she ignored before. Her heart becomes alert to what feels right and what feels wrong. Even small things begin to speak loudly. A comment that once felt harmless now feels out of place. A dream she buried years ago starts resurfacing. A desire for change grows stronger. None of this happens randomly. It's the universe shifting around her, preparing her for what's coming. Sometimes this shift comes with discomfort. A woman might feel unsettled, anxious, or unsure without knowing why. She might feel like she's outgrowing things she once loved or people she once relied on. She might feel isolated, even in a crowd, as if she is being separated for something higher. And she is. Preparation for a blessing often looks like loneliness because growth requires silence, elevation requires distance, and revelation requires clarity. God pulls her away from noise so she can hear what He has been trying to tell her. But even in the discomfort, there is a sense of anticipation. She can feel something is happening behind the scenes. She may not know exactly what it is, but she knows it's important. Her intuition becomes sharper, her dreams more vivid, her emotions more honest. She starts to crave authenticity in every part of her life. Fake smiles, fake friendships, fake stability no longer satisfy her. Her spirit is calling her towards something real, something divine, something designed specifically for her. And that's why a blessing never comes quietly. Quiet would keep her asleep. Quiet would keep her unchanged. Quiet would keep her tied to things that cannot hold the weight of her destiny. So instead, the blessing announces its approach by shaking her awake, stirring her spirit, opening her eyes, and pushing her into a state where she becomes aware of her own becoming. Everything begins with that inner shift, that spiritual tremor, that soul deep feeling that something big is on the horizon, something she was born to receive, something that is already making its way into her life even before she can see it with her eyes. When a woman is on the edge of receiving a blessing that is bigger than anything she has ever carried, life often wraps that blessing in struggle. Not because she is undeserving or forgotten, but because she is being strengthened for the weight of what is coming. Struggle is the training ground of destiny, the hidden classroom where her spirit learns what her comfort could never teach her. When God prepares a woman for elevation, he doesn't place her in soft soil. He plants her in pressure, because pressure reveals her resilience, pressure awakens her potential, and pressure purifies her purpose in ways ease never could. What she sees as a setback is actually the stretching required to hold something greater. Every difficulty becomes a lesson, every challenge a sharpening, every disappointment a transformation shaping her into a version of herself she never imagined possible. Struggle is not a punishment placed on her path. It is preparation woven into her journey. It breaks the weak parts of her that cannot survive at her next level. It strips away illusions and makes her face truths she once avoided. It forces her to learn patience, discipline, faith, and the art of letting go. And while she may feel tired, confused, or even abandoned, something powerful is happening underneath the surface. God is building her capacity. A blessing too big requires a woman strong enough to receive it, carry it, and grow inside it. Inside, and strength does not come from comfort. It comes from persistence, from surviving nights that tried to break her, from walking through seasons she didn't think she could endure. It comes from learning to breathe through the storm rather than run from it. In the middle of struggle, a woman often discovers parts of herself she didn't know existed. She realizes she is braver than she thought, wiser than she believed, and far more capable than she ever gave herself credit for. She learns that her value does not come from what she has, but from who she becomes when everything she depended on falls apart. That realization is part of the preparation. Blessings bring responsibility, visibility, and new challenges. Without the emotional muscle built through struggle, she wouldn't be able to sustain what God is sending her. So the struggle becomes her strength long before the blessing becomes her reality. Struggle also teaches her discernment. It sharpens her ability to see truth, to separate genuine connections from empty ones, to understand who is for her and who is only around her. When she goes through hardships, the wrong people fade away, revealing the purity of the bonds meant to stay. This pruning is not accidental, it is divine. God removes what can't support her future before he delivers what will transform it. If she kept every attachment from her past, her blessing would become a burden instead of a breakthrough. Struggle cleans her environment so her blessing doesn't land in the wrong soil. And even though struggle hurts, it awakens her spiritually. She begins to pray differently, think differently, move differently. She starts to let go of fear and step into faith. She begins to trust timing rather than rush it, trust her path rather than compare it, trust her strength rather than doubt it. Every hardship pushes her closer to the woman she is destined to be. Every challenge becomes evidence that she is being shaped for something extraordinary. Every tear becomes water for the seeds of her next chapter. When God is preparing to bless a woman, he allows her to feel the pressure of becoming before he lets her hold the reward of arriving. And though she may not realize it in the moment, the struggle she faces is the very sign that something magnificent is on its way to her life. Something worth every lesson, every tear, and every storm she had to survive to be ready for it. When God is getting ready to bless a woman in a way that changes everything, he often begins by pulling her away from the noise of the world. Not because he wants her lonely, but because he wants her focused. Isolation becomes the sacred space where transformation takes place. It is the quiet room where her spirit wakes up, where her heart becomes clearer, and where she finally hears what she could not hear when she was surrounded by people, opinions, and distractions. At first, she may not understand why people start drifting away, why conversations fade, or why connections she once relied on suddenly feel distant. She may wonder if she did something wrong, if she's losing herself, or if life is closing in on her. But what is really happening is that God is clearing her atmosphere so he can elevate her without interference. In these moments of isolation, she begins to see her strength in a new light. When she stands alone, she discovers how deeply supported she actually is, not by people, but by God, by purpose, by the resilience he planted in her soul. She learns that she doesn't need constant validation to know her worth, that her confidence cannot be borrowed from anyone else, and that the path ahead requires her to trust herself more than she ever has before. Isolation becomes the mirror that reveals her true self, stripped of expectations and free from pressure. It shows her who she is without anyone's voice shaping her identity. It teaches her to rely on faith rather than approval, and to walk boldly even when no one is clapping. This separation also removes the weight of people who cannot travel with her into her next chapter. Some individuals are only meant for a certain season of her life. When God elevates a woman, he cannot allow her to carry relationships, habits, or mindsets that would shrink her blessing or poison her growth. So he gently pulls her away, not to break her heart, but to protect her destiny. The isolation she feels is actually divine protection, moving her away from environments that no longer feed her spirit. It is a sign that she is being positioned for something bigger, something sacred, something that requires a clean foundation. Without this separation, her blessing might be delayed or damaged, but with it, she is realigned to her path and prepared for a higher purpose. In the silence of isolation, her intuition becomes louder. She starts noticing things she once ignored: her emotional needs, her spiritual hunger, her creative spark, her buried dreams. She begins to recognize what drains her and what nourishes her, what hurts her and what heals her. She becomes more intentional about who she lets into her space and what she allows into her mind. Solitude sharpens her discernment, giving her the ability to sense danger, dishonesty, or distraction before it reaches her heart. This internal clarity is necessary for the blessing that is coming, because what God is about to give her will require wisdom, boundaries, and the confidence to say no when needed. Even though the isolation may feel heavy, there is an unmistakable peace resting beneath it, a quiet knowing that something is shifting, something is building, something is aligning in her favor. She begins to understand that what feels like being set aside is actually being set apart. She is not being abandoned, she is being prepared. She is not losing people, she is losing limitations. She is not becoming lonely, she is becoming powerful. Through isolation, she is learning that her strength does not come from who stands beside her, but from the divine presence that lives within her. And when God chooses to elevate a woman, he isolates her first, so that when the blessing arrives, she knows without a doubt that it came from him, sustained her through him, and was always meant for her. When a woman is getting close to a blessing that will shift the entire direction of her life, one of the strongest signs she experiences is the rise of her intuition. It starts speaking louder than her fears, louder than other people's opinions, louder than the doubts that once controlled her. Intuition is that quiet inner voice that doesn't shout, but its truth cannot be ignored. And when God is preparing to bless her, that voice becomes impossible to silence. She starts sensing things before they happen, feeling truths before they're confirmed, and seeing deeper meaning in moments she once overlooked. This isn't coincidence, it's alignment. Her spirit is tuning into what her physical eyes can't see yet. She begins to feel guided, almost pulled toward decisions or changes that seem strange at first, but something inside her knows they are necessary. This heightened intuition often shows up during moments of transition. She may feel compelled to walk away from situations that once felt comfortable, even if nothing obviously wrong is happening. She may feel uneasy around certain people, as if her spirit is warning her about intentions her mind hasn't figured out yet. She may feel drawn toward new opportunities, new environments, or new habits without fully knowing why. These nudges are divine signals. They are God's way of preparing her steps before a blessing arrives. Intuition becomes the compass that guides her through unfamiliar territory so she doesn't drift away from the path meant for her. What makes this inner voice powerful is just its clarity, but its consistency. She starts connecting the dots between her emotions and her environment. She notices how her energy reacts to certain conversations, how her peace responds to certain decisions, how her heart whispers when something is wrong or right. It's like her inner world becomes more sensitive, urging her to stop ignoring what her spirit has been trying to tell her for years. This awareness leads to growth. She stops betraying herself just to keep others comfortable. She stops forcing bonds that drain her. She stops settling in places where her soul feels too small. The blessing she's moving toward demands authenticity, and intuition is the tool that pushes her toward it. Her intuition also helps her release the false security she once clung to. Often, before a blessing arrives, God separates her from what is temporary so she can make room for what is destined. This process can feel confusing or painful, but deep inside, her intuition keeps whispering, "There's more for you." Even when she doesn't fully understand the changes happening around her, she feels a quiet sense of trust rising within. She begins to rely less on logic alone and more on spiritual clarity. And this shift is important because the blessing ahead will require her to move with faith, not fear. Intuition is the training for that faith. As her intuition strengthens, she becomes more in tune with her purpose. She starts noticing signs, patterns, and confirmations that seem too deliberate to be random. She may hear a message at the exact moment she needs it, meet someone who inspires her in a way that feels intentional, or have a dream that reveals something she has been avoiding. These moments are not accidents. They are spiritual breadcrumbs leading her toward her blessing. God often speaks to her through her intuition because it bypasses the noise of the world and reaches directly into her spirit where truth lives. This deepening intuition gives her confidence even when her circumstances don't yet show improvement. She may still be waiting, still healing, still climbing out of a difficult season, but she knows something is shifting. She knows she is being guided towards something bigger than what she lost. She knows she is being prepared for a blessing that will match the strength she has gained. Her intuition is the signal that she is spiritually aligned with her next chapter, and that alignment is one of the clearest signs that what God has planned for her is already on its way. When a woman is on the verge of stepping into a blessing that carries weight, meaning, and divine purpose, her life often begins to feel like it's being rearranged from the inside out. Things she once depended on stop working the way they used to. Plans that seemed solid suddenly fall apart. Routines that once gave her comfort start feeling restrictive. At first, it may feel like everything is going wrong, but the truth is that everything is being rebuilt. What looks like disruption is actually divine construction. God begins breaking down old structures that can't support her next chapter, removing attachments that limit her, and closing doors that would keep her from the blessing he prepared for her. These disruptions aren't meant to disorient her. They're meant to position her. They create the space, clarity, and alignment required for her next level. In these moments, she may feel like she's losing control of her life, but what she's really losing are the things that no longer fit who she's becoming. God will not place a powerful blessing on a foundation that's cracked, unstable, or filled with too many distractions. So he begins to remove what can't carry the weight of her future. This may show up as relationships ending, job opportunities shifting, friendships fading, or habits becoming uncomfortable. At first, she might try to hold on, trying to glue pieces back together that were only meant to stay in place for a season. But the more she tries to force the old to stay, the more resistance she feels. This resistance is not punishment, it's protection. God is making sure she doesn't settle in a place that would limit her destiny. During this stage, she might experience confusion or frustration, wondering why life suddenly feels unstable. But deep inside, she begins to sense that something greater is being built from the chaos. Every closed door starts to make sense in hindsight. Every disappointment reveals itself as redirection. And every loss shows her that nothing was taken from her, only cleared out to make room for what's coming. Disruptions are often the first signs that a blessing is being prepared. They shake loose the things that cannot go with her into her next season and push her toward what she has been praying for, even if it arrives in a form she didn't expect. Divine construction also reshapes her mindset. A woman who is about to be blessed begins seeing life differently. She becomes more aware of what she tolerates, what she invests in, and what she sacrifices. She starts recognizing the difference between temporary comfort and long-term growth. The disruptions force her to evaluate her priorities, her boundaries, and the direction of her life. She realizes it's time to stop shrinking herself, stop doubting her voice, and stop settling for less than what she truly deserves. She begins to understand that the transformation happening around her is also happening within her. God is building her to match the blessing He is preparing for her. A woman who is meant to rise cannot remain in the same mindset she had when she was still learning to stand. As things fall apart, she also begins to notice new opportunities forming in the cracks. New connections, new ideas, new paths, new levels of confidence start emerging. What once intimidated her begins to excite her. What once held her back loses its power. Her spirit becomes more courageous, her decisions more intentional, and her vision more clear. She starts to trust that every disruption has a purpose, every delay carries wisdom, and every breakdown is setting the stage for a breakthrough. She understands that divine construction is never instant. It is a process of removing, reshaping, and realigning her entire life. So when everything feels like it's shifting at once, it's not a sign she is losing stability. It's a sign she is being upgraded. She is being rebuilt for blessings that require strength, clarity, and a solid foundation. And even though she may not see the full blueprint yet, she is beginning to sense that God is constructing something extraordinary for her, something that will make every disruption worth it once the blessing arrives.